What's up? It is 3 p.m. on a Sunday afternoon. Thanks for tuning in to Cannabis Legalization News, where we explain marijuana laws so you can change them. Today, we're joined by Josh Kincaid as a special guest host. Hey, Josh and Tom.
How are you?
How y'all doing? Happy Sunday.
Happy Memorial Day as well.
Oh, yeah.
Yep.
Anything planned?
I've already been to at least one cookout, so I've covered my bases. Josh, how's the cookout situation in Washington State?
It's a little overcast, but the cookout is about to start, so kicking it off with you guys first.
Well, thanks so much for joining us. If you guys haven't checked out Josh's YouTube channel, you should. It's Talking Hedge. It is the cannabis business podcast. How long have you been doing that?
This is the third season, so got about 775 unique videos out there now.
That's awesome. Yeah, doing this podcast has really allowed us to just accumulate videos. I mean, like, we've been able to accumulate so many videos and gain members, and it's the end of the month show. So we're going to do a focus on cannabis legalization news at a federal level, and then we look at our status of our channel and then say, okay, well, how much are we giving away this month? Because we give 50% of our revenue away. Our channel doesn't do that much revenue because despite having 27,000 subscribers, we're in cannabis. So anything that we do very often is flagged. It's going to be $268. So we'll cut that in half and donate it to Freedom Grow Forever. Freedom Grow Forever, of course, puts money on Cannabis Prisoners Commissary. And so we try to help them out through the channel. And of course, thanks for joining us. We're going to be giving away a shirt on the Name That Strain. So, like, share, subscribe, all that stuff.
Awesome.
Yeah, man. So federal news, the big thing that ended up the week that was the week before Memorial Day, finally, Naylor beats Schumer in the race to file something at the federal level. So the MORE Act has been filed once again, and it would already passed last time. It'll probably pass this time, but they made some changes to it. They did. And so now they've made changes to facilitate the expungement of low-level federal marijuana convictions. I wonder how many low-level federal marijuana convictions there are. But then also because like the reason why I mentioned that is, Josh, do you know who does the principal law enforcement in the United States?
Principal law enforcement?
Yeah, the federal or the state governor. Which one is usually more of the police?
You got me, man.
Police is it's a local thing, and so very often you're going to be arrested by local cops, or you're going to be arrested by your state cops. Very rarely are you going to be arrested by like the FBI or the DEA, some federales, those types of people. They don't necessarily do that much, and especially with weed now, because Biden's $6 trillion budget has proposed to defund anything that is state law compliant, which would be great. But the MORE Act has some more things, different changes this time. It's going to allow veterans to obtain medical cannabis recommendations from their VA doctors. Think about that.
That's pretty dope. We're kind of a sanctuary state now in Washington where you can kind of get away with everything, but at the same time, it's not available. So, I mean, if they can make it actually available for veterans, that's one thing. But at least they're not going to be arrested for it anymore in Washington. Like, regardless, we've decriminalized all drugs, just like Colorado. So, I mean, we're good on with that regards. But isn't this going to be like the fifth time that they're going to be voting on the House? Is there a reason behind that? Is it like it's a new Congress or something, so they have to start over?
That's it. That's literally it. And so Congress is every 2 years. And because it's every 2 years, there's just a slim minority of bills that actually get out of committee and get voted on. And very often they take years. And so that's one of these things that they're doing now is they have to pass it again. They passed it out of the House last Congress, but that Congress is gone. They have to reconvene it. And then the Senate never brought it up. So now they're going to pass it again, and they've added a lot more social equity types of policies into it. I'll have to do a video where I go through the text, but I still haven't been able to find the actual bill that they filed. I realized that it was just filed on Friday. Maybe they haven't published it yet because they're like, hey, 3-day weekend, boss. We can get to this on Tuesday. But who knows?
Yeah, they expanded the social equity and made it into more, into the SBA, Small Business Association. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, when I was in banking, hardly any of those ever passed. So I'm not sure it's actually going to impact anybody if it has to go through all that bureaucracy. there needs to be something set out specifically for those impacted by the war on drugs, rather than allow the current inefficient government model of an SBA to give out these licenses. It's never going to happen.
Yeah, it's much more difficult because a lot of the times the licenses are done at the state level. I mean, that's exclusively how they are now with federal prohibition. But one thing that the feds can really do is set immigration policy, because immigration is a nationwide policy. You don't want each individual state having its own immigration policy. It wouldn't be very effective. And so one of the things that will be changed in the new MORE Act is the removing the threat of deportation for immigrants accused of minor marijuana infractions or who are gainfully employed in the state legal cannabis industry. And I get a lot of people that call and they aren't from America. They might be on a particular type of visa. And sometimes I'm like, well, you really want to be careful on that. Now with the next budget year, if they change that from being medical marijuana to all marijuana, the state compliant is prohibited from Department of Justice interference. Great. Now maybe you can actually not necessarily risk being deported, but INS isn't DOJ, so you still would. It becomes difficult, like, if you want to actually try to invest in cannabis and you also want to have a visa.
Mm-hmm. Now, is that just a blanket kind of statement that they're not going to use any federal funds, including immigration, or
No, it's very often been directed expressly at the Department of Justice. And so the appropriations and the power of the purse the legislature has, pursuant to Article 1 of the Constitution, they are allowed to create and pass the budgets. And oh, nice, I'm away to Cabo. Did we legalize it yet? Yes, Miggy, we did it, bro. It's party time in Cabo. Right. But so the legislature has the ability to set how much money will be spent, and they work in conjunction with the administration to set the budget. There's a budget reconciliation, and then sometimes the government is shut down. That happened most recently, I want to say, in the 2018 Farm Bill, where Trump signed that into law. That was to avoid a government shutdown in like 2018 into 2019. And so by around the time the fiscal cliff starts, that's September 30th. That's when the budget year for the feds end, and then you get continuing resolutions until they approve a budget. And so they say, all right, no money, no appropriation for money at all to the Department of Justice to enforce to enforce the federal marijuana laws in a state, if it's a compliant operator.
All right.
Mm-hmm.
Fair enough.
Fair enough. And we have some good news out of Missouri. The Missouri legislature has passed a bill protecting the gun rights of legal marijuana patients. That's the MO Greenway. And we're going to have Dan Viets on the show to discuss this. So let's bring on Dan Viets. Dan, thanks for joining us.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon.
So can you tell us what happened with this new development in Missouri for gun rights and cannabis?
Well, Missouri legislature is extremely concerned about gun rights. And almost every year they consider or pass legislation which is intended to enhance the right to keep and bear arms, which is of course part of our state constitution's Bill of Rights, just as it's part of the federal Bill of Rights. The bill that the legislature passed makes no explicit reference to medical marijuana, but it does say that laws, rules, orders, or other actions that collect data, restrict, or prohibit manufacture, ownership, and use of firearms, accessories, ammunition, etc., are exceed the powers granted to the federal government. So our legislature has declared that any such rules exceed the power granted to the federal government. What really, if it has teeth, what the teeth in this bill is the fact that it declares that if any entity or person assists any federal agency in enforcing federal gun laws in Missouri, that they're going to be liable to the injured party for $50,000 per occurrence and injunctive relief and attorney's fees and costs. And so this has been interpreted as, and I think it's correct to interpret that as saying that medical marijuana patients have the right to keep and bear arms under Missouri law, and that Missouri law enforcement and Missouri courts are prohibited from doing anything that would infringe that right. But to be accurate, nobody's lost their guns because of medical marijuana, either in Missouri or in any other state, so far as I can determine. And I try to follow this issue fairly closely. I heard about an incident in Hawaii where a sheriff seized firearms from some patients and he gave them right back. So again, I'm not aware of any incident in which any medical marijuana patient has lost his or her firearms solely because of being a medical marijuana user. On the other hand, what is clearly a problem for medical marijuana patients is purchasing more firearms from a federally licensed dealer. Federally licensed firearms dealers are required to inquire of the purchaser about various factors, and one of those is whether the purchaser is a legal medical marijuana user under state law. And if the answer is in the affirmative, the federally licensed firearms dealer is prohibited from selling a firearm to that person. Now, whether this law is going to change that, frankly, I doubt it. It may lead to some interesting litigation, but I doubt that it's going to cause federally licensed dealers to begin selling firearms because they don't want to lose their license, and the federal government controls whether or not they have that license. It does bring up a very interesting collateral issue, however. Last summer, in fact, almost a year ago, the Missouri Supreme Court issued a comment on the interpretation of the rules of legal ethics in Missouri. Now, the rules of legal ethics have always said that lawyers aren't supposed to assist anyone in breaking the law. You know, we can assist people after they are accused of breaking the law. We can defend them, but we're not supposed to assist them in committing the law violation. So the comment that the Missouri Supreme Court issued says that if, this is not verbatim, but it's very close, if a lawyer assists a person in an action which may be protected either under Missouri statutory law or Missouri constitutional law, that attorney is subject to discipline. So that's been widely interpreted as applying to medical marijuana. Lawyers in Missouri who assist either a patient or a business, certainly, in actions which would violate federal law, which means any marijuana possession, those attorneys are threatened with discipline, even though the Missouri Constitution, when we passed our medical marijuana law here in Missouri, I helped to write that. It wasn't my idea, but someone who had good sense and foresight put in a provision that says, thou shalt not discipline Missouri attorneys for assisting patients and businesses in medical marijuana. Our state's constitution explicitly says that no licensing body, not the Missouri Bar Association nor any licensing body, can discipline an attorney for assisting a patient or a business with medical marijuana. And yet the Missouri Supreme Court says, in so many words, we don't care what the Constitution says. The Constitution which created us, the Constitution which gives us our power.
Yeah, our whole job isn't to interpret. You know, we don't care what it says. Oh no! Well,
yeah.
Do you think that's just evidence of pre-existing prejudice on the part of the Missouri Supreme Court? Because Flora Grown in Florida came out last week, and then reading that opinion, it was just like, boy, I just don't think that they either don't like marijuana or they really like the people who currently have the license to do it, and then they're getting paid. Because I know in Illinois, judges have to run. And so I'm assuming in Florida and also in Missouri, judges have to run.
That's right.
Yep.
That's right. It's difficult to say what their motivations are. But the point is, it could easily be held to apply to this new law as well. I mean, this is merely a statute. The Supreme Court of our state says they're not even bound by constitutional provisions, so they're sure not going to be bound by a mere statute. Now, every attorney in our state, when he or she is sworn in, takes an oath to uphold and protect the United States Constitution and the Missouri Constitution. Doesn't say anything about federal statutes, but our Supreme Court has elevated federal statutes to such a high position that if we assist anyone in violating a federal statute, we may lose our law license. So
Wow.
So
Yeah,
I'm wondering, what's the chances of this catching fire and having a domino effect? Because being in Washington State, the regulatory authority, being the Liquor and Cannabis Board, has threatened medical marijuana patients by taking away their guns if they sign up for the registry. So I think even though it hasn't happened, it is holding people back from becoming medical patients.
Mm-hmm.
So what are the chances that this kind of catches fire and has a domino effect to the point where other states adopt similar policies to kind of protect gun rights for medical patients?
Well, hard to say. I certainly can't predict, but one may hope that it would lead to that. One may hope that the Missouri General Assembly would want to protect and defend the Missouri Constitution, not only the provisions that are analogous to the Second Amendment, but also the provisions that have been enacted by a direct vote of the people in recent years. Yes, I hope it does indeed lead to other states following suit. But from the point of view of the people who passed it, it's really not mainly about medical marijuana. It's about putting a thumb in the eye of the federal government and telling them that we're not gonna be bound by federal law.
That's interesting. But like in Illinois and in other states as well, when it comes to the public need for lawyers, especially in the regulated cannabis space, to provide counsel and advice to clients, is so important that many state bar associations, irrespective of what their Supreme Court may think, put out opinions, because they're the ones that are very often in charge, or the regulatory commission working in conjunction with the Supreme Court of that, well, not the Supreme Court, but the bar association of that state, put out like the professional rules of conduct. And so Illinois, when they legalized it, they've had a comment to one of the particular rules. The exact one is just escapes me right now, but saying that it is ethical for a lawyer, and it's not just ethical, it's necessary. You can't change this law and then say that you can't access lawyers, because think about that. That would just be terrible for these businesses that have a lot of cash, a lot of issues and operations, and very often complex ownership schemes and restrictions. If they weren't able to access lawyers, that would just be a horrible playing out.
It would be awful. But indeed, our state Supreme Court, every state Supreme Court, is the ultimate authority on the interpretation of that state's constitution. And it would be, I'm not sure if it's ever happened that a federal court has presumed to overrule a ruling of a state Supreme Court in interpreting that state's constitution. So if our state Supreme Court says black is white and up is down,
so because they're doing this, but they're doing this in conjunction, like they're saying the federal government's Second Amendment doesn't go far enough, and so we're going to go further. But then what happens if if Missouri legalizes it in 2022? And I'd like to see if there is any possibility of a ballot initiative.
Oh, it's likely. So, absolutely. We're writing it right now.
But then will the Supreme Court invalidate it because it violates federal law? And so they'll just be completely two-faced.
No, I don't think so. They haven't invalidated the medical marijuana provision of our state constitution. They've simply said they're going to threaten lawyers with discipline if they assist anyone.
I got to get licensed down there then, because that, we'll sanction you. All right, well, I'll be licensed in these other states then, and I'll just make a huff, a big huff about you're denying this entire industry the right to an attorney. I mean, imagine if you were accused of a crime, and they'd say, "No, I'm sorry, you're not allowed to access counsel." Yeah.
Yeah, the Sixth Amendment seems to say otherwise, but again, it's at least a curious situation. Now, I want to point out that as far as we're aware, no attorney has been disciplined yet for assisting patients or businesses, and most lawyers are just kind of whistling past the graveyard. Most lawyers are just kind of saying, well, let's not talk about that. I have talked about it. I may regret talking about it, but I think it's fundamentally important, because if they can say the Constitution doesn't matter when it comes to medical marijuana, well, they can say the Constitution doesn't matter when it comes to anything else. It's an extremely dangerous precedent.
Yep, and it is 20 past the hour. So that means on the East Coast, it's 4:20 somewhere. Mm-hmm. This 4:20 is sponsored by WebJoint. We'll talk more with Dan when we get back from it. WebJoint is a software company in the center of allowing cannabis deliveries all over the state of California, and they have been a sponsor of It's 420 Somewhere. If your cannabis company wants to sponsor It's 420 Somewhere, get in touch with me at Cannabis Industry Lawyer on Instagram. So, Dan, you mentioned before the break, there's a high likelihood of a ballot initiative in Missouri for 2022. Can you explain to us the status of it and how it's being drafted?
Yes, it's being drafted by a coalition of longtime marijuana law reform activists, primarily NORML activists throughout the state of Missouri. Each of our chapters' leadership have participated in the drafting process, along with several people from the new medical marijuana industry here in Missouri. And we have a good functional coalition. Not to say there haven't been some disagreements, of course, but they've been reasonable and there have been compromises. And we're going to be filing with the Missouri Secretary of State's office within, and I've been saying this for several weeks, but within a few weeks at most, we're going to be filing with the Missouri Secretary of State's office an adult use initiative, which we intend to place on the ballot in November of 22. And by we, I mean essentially the same group that came together to pass medical marijuana here in November of 2018.
Awesome. Do they have any higher hurdles like in Florida that you have to get a super majority, or do you just have to pass with a simple majority?
It's a simple majority so far, but there's a very active effort in the Missouri General Assembly to change that. There's a very active and ongoing effort to make it much harder to put initiatives on the ballot in our state. However, the proposals to do that will probably not be on the ballot. They have to be passed by a vote of the people too, of course, and they'll probably not be on the ballot any sooner than November of 22. And we're, of course, part of a coalition resisting making those changes.
And then, well, I was going to then ask one more thing, and I know your time's very precious. The single issue question of ballot initiatives. Has that been, is that a requirement in Missouri? Have previous ones been disqualified for violating it?
I can't recall any that have been disqualified on that ground. It is a requirement. However, it's not as strictly or narrowly defined as it has been in some other states.
Awesome. Well, Dan, thank you so much for stopping by. Where can people find out more about you and your practice in Missouri?
Well, Dan Viets, I've got a website. They can go to NORML.org and reach the Missouri chapter, reach me through the Missouri chapter at NORML's national website, NORML.org, and Missouri NORML, likewise on Facebook. I'm easy to find.
Awesome. Thanks so much for stopping by.
Thank you very much. Have a great weekend.
You too. Yep, WebJoint is in California, and they are an operator of software, and they're trying to expand into other legal states, and so they are doing a crowdfund. If you wanted to invest in a cannabis delivery software company, this is your chance. It's a Reg CF offering, and if you go to that bit.ly/WJ-CLN, you can invest. I'm not sure what the minimum investment is. However, they are looking to expand, and they're doing a capital raise. Josh, what types of things do you think about how cannabis companies or tech companies like WebJoint can use these types of crowdfunding platforms to raise capital for their ventures?
I saw Chris DiGiulio, the CEO of WebJoint, pitch for the Marijuana Show Season 3 a couple of years ago now. And their platform offers a lot of different things. So obviously not just having one niche, but they do a lot of different things. So I have no doubt that they're going to be very creative in the way that they raise capital, including peer-to-peer or Reg A or anything other than friends and family and a convertible note. They're going to be pretty creative in the way that they go about it.
That's awesome. Friends and family and convertible notes with little warrants. Maybe you can buy some warrants. I like that.
Credit card advance.
Credit card advance. There we go. And they got different tiers of investment for you. So yeah, and I just wanted to give them a shout out and also say, of course, they were a sponsor of the program. So we have to make those disclosures as we're the internet. We're the internet. Yeah. All right. Explosive Memorial Day weekend for cannabis ahead, according to the BDSA report. This is coming out of Green Market Reports. Josh, you've been following the cannabis industry for a great many years. Have you noticed any particular sales data that might substantiate this claim?
I have. If you look at Headset or, Frontrunner Data, BDS Analytics, of course, great company. It's interesting, though, like outside of 420, kind of the bigger holidays, you would think, okay, well, maybe 7/10, July 10th. That's 7/10 is oil spelled backwards if you're not a dabber or whatever. So I would think that those other cannabis holidays would draw in a lot. But what you're actually seeing is Labor Day, Memorial Day, 4th of July, like barbecue season is huge. Big sales. So
yeah, that's what BDSA was saying about that. They were talking about the barbecues. They were talking about the cookouts, the grilling. And so you're going to go there and you might not want to get overserved with something that may make it more, difficult to get back home. And so you might want to break out the joints because then, after about an hour or so and then a Gatorade, you'll be good,
I think a lot of it is discretionary too, though. You'll find a lot of edibles because people they have anxiety. So whether it's family or friends, like even coming to this barbecue today, my wife had anxiety because we haven't seen humans in like almost a year and a half, so I'm sure she's over it now. But, when you're dealing with family, maybe that anxiety doesn't just evaporate the moment you see them and you need an edible for that whole duration. Right.
Because that's the thing about families. They just do terrible things to one another sometimes.
Yeah.
It's weird. But all right, Colorado, it's to make up to 25% of sales on Thursday and Sunday for their Memorial Day sales. It's quite a lot. According to the Colorado to make up 25% of their cannabis sales on Thursday and Saturday. Wait, I'm not sure if I'm understanding this. Maybe it's Thursday and Saturday, or is it Thursday and Sunday? Because like right Thursday, there it says Thursday, Sunday, and then underneath it says Thursday, Saturday.
So in Washington, for example, you'll sell 1/3 of all of your edibles for the week on Fridays between the hours of 3 and 5. So just a couple of hour window is when you're going to sell 1/3 of all edibles. So people get off work on Friday, boom, they're heading to it. So I think what that article is saying is that before and after Memorial Day is when you have huge sales. So 1/4 of all of the sales are going to happen right before Labor Day or Memorial Day, and then right after. Maybe.
Well, I mean, it's easier for you to control and stock up on the supply of oils and edibles, I would imagine. I wonder if flower prices fluctuate then into these large weekends, because those schedules to pull down those plants, those take time. You can't you have to amp them up months in advance.
Yeah, me and Miggy just did a cannabis product review, and I was asking for CBG, and somebody was like, well, I have CBN. It's actually from light degradation, and it's orange, and it's been in the window forever. And I was like, you're not selling me on this old no, thank you.
Yeah, there's no terpenes left. It just makes you angry.
Little edgy, like green crack for me.
Yeah. Well, that is really, really interesting that they have all that. So, with that, we're about halfway through the show. We could play Name That Strain. You want to play Name That Strain? This was the first time for you, right?
Strain.
All right, let's do that. This is a classic strain. And it's one of those strains that, people would guess it very, very quickly if you say the wrong thing about it, but then I think a lot of strains are like that. And then this was on the time of Name That Strain where we described to the people listening at home or in their cars probably what the strain looks like. I would say it's got very dense trichomes production, and then it also has a fairly minty green, not too dark, not too light, and completely covered with red hairs. What about Josh? What's your opinions on that nug?
Well, it smells delicious. First of all, I would say it's kind of a classic Christmas tree. The orange hairs are super, super classic. I'm guessing it's high in pinene, a sativa dominant, kind of denser flower, something of a blue dream circa 2008.
Yep. Just as one hint, and I've seen a lot of OGs in the guessing room, and OG may be associated with this strain, but it is very often not gone with the OG. They have a different name that you would just drop off the OG, and it's, to me at least, more likely to be known by that. So while you guys are getting your guesses in on that one, I did want to tell you that we are going on tour, and we're going to have, I got junk. So there will be T-shirts, and then there'll be brochures for our services. And then we also have the swag bags, because as you go to these trade shows, you get a lot of swag. You need a bag. And if you go to cannabisimp.com, you will be able to use the promo code CLB15 for 15% off your ticket. Next show is in 3 weeks in Chicago. 3 weeks in Chicago, June 24th and 25th. Come on out and see us. It's a Friday, Thursday. I may have to do some content. I might not be able to do it live, depending on how good the internet is there. But if I have to record it, whatever. I'll chop it up and then do something after it. Is Cannabis Industrial Marketplace is what Cannabis IMP stands for. And this is their emerging market tour. So we'll be in Chicago, June 24th, 25th, and then we go to Michigan on July 13th and 14th.
When do I get to see you in Seattle, man? I didn't see Washington State on there.
You see, that's the thing. We are promoting Cannabis IMP right now.
Oh.
Chances are I will not be present in Michigan, or I will actually be present in Michigan, but I will be at somebody else's tent, and then I'll just be saying hi. And then, of course, I have to go to Seattle on July 15th through July 20th. So Josh and I need some ideas for content that we can film out there. I do want to check out a dispensary. If any dispensaries will allow us to do like a piece on that, cash handling or some type of aspect of their compliance requirements. That's the exciting stuff that you get on Cannabis Legalization News. Smash those likes and hit subscribe for compliance requirements. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, all right. Let's see what else is in the news. Let's see. All right. Well, we're going to give out a shout to our members. Our members are 3 different levels. We have general members for $2 a month. And then if you're a member for 12 months, when you get your 12-month sticker, we send you a shirt. Or you can just get a shirt immediately by becoming a legalizer in chief. That's $25 a month. Miggy and I make custom stuff for the members. Miggy has his own level. It's $5 a month. And so he makes you guys content. It's pretty fun. Have you gotten the ability to unlock that at the Talking Hedge yet?
No, not yet. I have applied, but I don't meet the requirements. I can't monetize. I can't do any of that. But
we can't monetize much.
Yeah, maybe if you offer me a custom bobblehead for $420, I might just become a member.
Nice.
Is that like the Platinum Chronic Club membership?
I guess we could make a more expensive membership. We could make the ridiculous. Remember, Google gets 30% of this membership. Where you're like, I don't know, Jesus. Yeah, but it's fun. And then so I do a lot of webinars. I do a webinar a month about some type of cannabis business issue that's applicable. Oh, do we have somebody who has guessed the Name That Strain? Let's see here. No winners yet. No. Okay. Superheroes. There we go. All right. Somebody will get it now. Before we go and do something about Flint's old police academy, going to be used to grow weed despite objections. Has anybody with the hint of superhero get their guess in for Name That Strain? Teddy Spaghetti is close. He needs to clock it back. And there it is. Sweet Tooth gets it. Bruce Banner, Sweet Tooth. Thank you so much for playing Name That Strain. Really appreciate it. If you want a shirt, please do go follow me at Cannabis Industry Lawyer on Instagram and DM me. And then we will mail you a shirt. So Flint's old police academy has been sold to grow weed despite objections. What do you think about that, Josh?
I think it's beautiful. I think it's full circle. Why not clean it up with a little bit of cannabis? That building looks like it's seen better days anyways.
Oh, yeah? You want to get the price quote on that? See what they paid for that?
That's ridiculous. $500,000 in Flint, Michigan? Like,
Well, it's called the green zone effect. Michigan is kind of like California in the sense that there's only so many spots in the state that you can grow weed. And therefore, it commands a premium. And you'll see that a lot on when you're going real estate shopping for your grow or your dispo in Michigan. And you'll see these busted out pieces of shit for like $500,000, $600,000. You're like, what? Oh, it's green zoned. Oh, fuck.
That show Good Bones is a house flipping show kind of, and they buy houses between $1,000 and $4,000 in Illinois. So I know that you can find cheaper houses than that in Flint, Michigan, but yeah, they're gouging people for sure. Unless there's like 1,000 acres that comes with that.
Let me see here. If there's 4.4 acre parcel.
It should be 4.2 acres. Come on, let's round that down.
Come on. There we go. A divided Flint City Council approved the sale of 3420 South St. John Street in a 5-4 vote on Monday, May the 25th, despite protests that the property, which is zoned to allow grow operation, see, it's been green zoned, wasn't properly advertised for sale. They're like, no, you can't sell this. You didn't advertise it appropriately. Yep. And it was a fair and open bidding process, and $500,000 is a lot for our city's general fund. It's all about the dinero. Yep.
Yeah, that's a ton of dough. They're going to have to retrofit that building and everything else, but
they're going to bust that building down. Well, I guess, I don't know. We'd have to have an engineer go through, and the engineer might say, just tear it down.
They got to leave that jail cell up and grow in there at least one harvest.
Oh, do you think like how the plant is cared for by the person growing it and like where it's grown impacts the high that it gives you and its terpene profile? So if you grew the weed in the holding cell, wouldn't that be like some of the most angry weed that people would smoke and go like nuts or something? I don't know.
I think there's some crazy energy in there. Yeah, that would be interesting.
Yeah. But then again, that's bullshit, right? That has to be. I don't understand energy and ghosts and spirits. Come on.
I think Mythbusters got it down with really angry music grew the fastest. Now they've got vibration tables to give the plants the equivalent of energy. I think we are all energy and you're releasing either good vibes or bad vibes. So vibration tables are a thing now.
Yeah. One of my buddies, Dan, had like these vibration tables or these vibration pots that would, kind of adapt to a table. So then you would use that and for whatever sonic reason, these vibration things magically create growth in your plants, or at least their salesmen claim that. And so that is one of those things where you're like, is that real? Well, there's one way to find out. That'll be $155,000,
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Interesting nonetheless, though. I mean, I wouldn't mind trying it. I think there's some validity to that. When that Japanese scientist who wrote negative words on ice and they came out all crazy looking, and he wrote positive words on ice and they came out pretty.
Crazy.
You haven't seen that?
No.
You got to look at that, man. There's a really old study about a Japanese guy who wrote positive and negative words on ice, and it comes up exactly like you would think, like beautiful crystals with nice words, and really like nasty lines and stuff for the negative words with ice. And so, without even saying anything, just writing it down. So I would imagine if there is some validity to that, and actually saying it and having that energetic component to it would enhance the plant.
Yeah. Well,
get hippie on it, man. Come on.
Got to get hippie on it. I'm wearing a dead shirt after all. But like, then we also have to break down the data and be real. I mean, like, Michigan's an open state, and they're still having a hard time opening doors for Black and brown entrepreneurs. And they're substantially underrepresented. I mean, of course, we just talked about buying a piece of crap for $500,000. And so as soon as you're green zone, as soon as you come into contact with this plant, somebody wants to sell you like vibration energy crystals so you can grow more of it. And then like the dilapidated house was $500,000 so you can grow it. And then, of course, like anybody can get a license purportedly. But they say that only about 3.8% of existing licensed recreational cannabis businesses have Black ownership stake, and 1.5% have a Hispanic ownership stake. However, Black and Hispanic communities in Michigan make up 19% and 5.3% of Michigan's population, respectively. So the doors are still kind of closed, or there's some reason why they're not getting involved. We should commission a study.
Yeah, and they're not unique in that region. Washington State, for example, we have less than 1% that are producer processors that are black cannabis farmers, and anyone could have gotten in at that level. The producer processors was just a matter of like a $500 license, but through the consolidation process, a lot of those guys went out. They didn't have the capital to back them because they had, issues one way or another, whatever it was. So, I think that as these social equity programs roll out, they're going to have to be a little bit more efficient and do a little bit more work to kind of ensure that they don't fall to the wayside, that black farmers just become, a novelty or in the history books. On the other side, on the retail for Washington State, that was a lottery and completely unfair. And they should, change that. Black farmers should challenge it and get more black owners in retail. So hopefully, Michigan and other emerging markets will change that, learn from their mistakes that we've had on the West Coast and rectify it.
Because like a retail operation, I would assume, nothing fancy, but you could open a retail operation for, hundreds of thousands of dollars in the West Coast, I would hope. If you're not going to purchase the real estate and you're going to be a tenant and you're not going to have like a ridiculous operation, they should be able to access the license and capital to be able to open their doors. Stuff gets really crazy expensive when you start buying like premium indoor flowering facilities and extraction labs and packaging requirements and the manufacturing, It's when
you came out here for Hemp Fest a couple years ago, did Miggy take you to the very first dispensary that opened up, Seattle City, or I can't even remember the name of it, but that was probably opened up with $15,000, $5,000 for the monthly rent, and then maybe $5,000 for some glass cabinets. It's one of the most inexpensive shops I've seen to this day.
So we would need like no reg though. Because there's no compliance, and so like the reason why it costs that much has nothing to do with, you see, now with lumber being where it's at, fine, that's double the price. Still, $30,000 to open a dispensary is freaking nothing. It's like a fraction of what they usually cost now because of the regulatory compliance you have.
It's not a Planet 13 by any stretch, right? You're just literally walking into kind of a rundown, not rundown, but a minimal handy mart, just hole in the wall with glass display cabinet. Very minimal, very, very minimal. So you don't need a ton of dough. I think what we saw from Medman was a mistake when they, weren't really responsible with the capital that they raised.
Yeah, that's just how it is. But then good news out of Minnesota. So medical marijuana users will soon be allowed to smoke cannabis in Minnesota. The Minnesota legislature has approved changes to the state's program, and Governor Tim Walz signed the Omnibus Health and Human Service Bill into law in the last week of May of 2021, which includes provisions to expand the state's medical cannabis program back from 2014, with qualified patients allowed to buy the drug starting in July 2015.
Well, congratulations. You're allowing the #1 product sold in every single state, flower. But where are they going to smoke it at? Do they have any lounges?
No, they do not yet have lounges. And they may have lounges in a bill that has not yet passed. It hybrid passed. And so the House approved a bill that would have legalized recreational marijuana for adults in May 13th, but it did not get a single hearing in the Senate where Republicans opposed it. So, a couple of steps forward, a couple steps back. I'm glad that they're going to at least be able to start getting flower for smokable patients. What I don't know about Minnesota's is if they needed to control THC levels. I know sometimes they have to control THC levels, especially like in Georgia, for example. They want a 5% THC. And I think Texas just had a good piece of news about Delta 8. So, if you like the Delta 8 product, smash them likes, hit subscribe, and then share this with somebody who's hustling that Delta 8. But in Texas, that was something they were trying to ban, and then that got filched right at the end. And then, of course, this is about the time that legislatures throughout the United States, they're kind of like SNL. When SNL goes on break, all the legislatures go home, and that's where we're at. We're at the end of May, and Illinois is a prime example. They just passed HB 1443. Right on time, just like you knew they would.
Beautiful.
Yep. It's not bad. And then what else is going on in this one? Okay, so the updates to the state's medical cannabis law could go into effect before March 1 of 2022 if they can start testing the dried cannabis. So they just need some testing labs. They can get testing labs. That's easy. And what happens when Minnesota will no longer be the only state with a medical marijuana program that bans smoking the drug? Okay. As of May, 36 states allow medical cannabis, while 17 states in the District of Columbia allow recreational, and the National Conference of State Legislatures aren't providing those numbers. Only 34,450 patients, and there's only 15 qualifying conditions. So that is a very strict and controlled market, you know?
Yeah, medical numbers are always really, really low. A lot of people just don't sign up for them, and I don't know how well they're tracked, but I've never really seen outstanding medical numbers. And they always go away. The medical programs always get demolished as soon as rec comes out. So they're kind of a short-lived program anyways.
So that one type of hole-in-the-wall dispensary that you were just mentioning that you could open for like, 15, 20 grand, that was a medical dispensary.
Well, they converted it to a rec, so it's still around. And they haven't put a single dollar into it in like 5 years.
Oh, wow. So they have a compliant rec facility that has like no security?
Well, they have a guy checking ID in the front. We'll definitely take you there and I'll show it to you.
Wow.
They've improved the facade by making it flashy, but you go into the store and you'll be surprised by how small it is and how minimal it is.
Well, yeah, that's the thing. Because like when Illinois, you're trying to design something and it's like, no, if you read the regulations, you have to have these at every door. You need access control so that employees, when they leave, like you take their badge and they can no longer access the premises. I mean, the compliance cost drives the barrier to entry.
Definitely. But I think it's really minimal in Washington State with just the requirements on seed to sale for the farmers. For the rec shops, that's minimal too. You have to check IDs and have cameras, and that's about it. I mean, there's some more stuff in there, but it's nothing too substantial.
Yeah,
it's pretty easy.
Awesome. Well, news out of Pennsylvania. An eye doctor who grew marijuana for his dying wife has been pardoned. Thank goodness. So Governor Tom Wolf on Wednesday pardoned an eye doctor who began growing marijuana to help his dying wife reduce her use of opioids. It was Dr. Paul Ezel of Delaware County outside Philadelphia, and he has served 6 months in jail in 2014 and lost his ability to practice medicine after pleading guilty to a felony drug charge.
Damn. That sucks. So he lost his license to practice medical law and half a decade of revenue. That's terrible.
Yes, it is. And, that's one of the reasons why homegrown and safe access is such an important thing. And then there's different strains and cultivars that have been made specifically for this type of trauma, and so like is
it Bruce Banner by chance?
Bruce Banner was not necessarily bred for opioids, I thought, but for end of days, but like stuff like, to help you with anxiety and also with pain. So I'm thinking like maybe more high CBD cultivars, maybe with some THC in them, but those ones, the more medicinally activated ones,
Yeah, maybe like a Jack Hare,
or an AC/DC or a lifter. Yeah, man, crazy. Next month, the pardon board will hear the case of Ezel's daughter, Victoria Ezel, a nurse who pleaded guilty and served probation and lost her license because of a marijuana case, or the same marijuana case. It's just, I tell you, it's just ridiculous. And now I'm glad that he's been pardoned, but will he be reinstated so he can get his practice back? And then will he be able to apply for a cannabis license and maybe have the ability to have a dispensary? The dispensaries in Pennsylvania are very vertically integrated. That's one of the fun things we might want to do is sometimes I like to say, well, what's the price of an eighth in? And then you name the city we should get a bumper for that. Checking prices on the street in the USA, or who knows, because like I don't know where we could find Canadian prices, and I don't know if people would care.
Yeah, a lot of people care. You can get data from Headset and everywhere else, but Pennsylvania is an interesting market because I don't think of it as being too populated, but it actually is. And I've gotten more calls out of Pennsylvania for pre-roll and automated joint rolling machine than anywhere else in North America. So I don't know what it is about pre-rolls and
for Pennsylvania for like, hey, how do I get my cannabis license? I'm like, you call your legislature and you tell them to legalize weed.
Yeah. A lot of interest in there though, for sure.
Lots. We're going to go to a Columbia Care website and see if I can get prices on the Columbia Care website. I am 21 and older. I am. Oh, they got a C menu. Okay, let's go to Scranton, Pennsylvania news. Anybody watching from Pennsylvania, don't forget to tell us in the comments, and also hit them like buttons. So we got some Sticky Blossom Hybrid Live Sauce. That is a $60 gram. Let's see. Do we have anything that's not? Oh, there's some flour. We have a hybrid Blue Dream crossed with PCK. That is $100, 7 grams. So that would be a quarter. $100 for a quarter, 16.5. But then they have a nice, at least they have to list all the terpenes in that profile. Let's go for an eighth. Do we even have an eighth anywhere? Or a gram, $70. Oh, there's an eighth right there. Orange cookies. From G Leaf medicinal or medical cannabis, 23%, and it is $55. Oh wait, and then 55 for an eighth and 100 for a quarter, and so that is the price. Scranton, Pennsylvania.
Yeah, that's not cheap.
Nope, that is not.
$60 a gram for concentrate isn't too bad for an emerging market, but that's going to come down like more than half. Although I just did see a gram of concentrate for cookies in Washington State for $60. So maybe it's about the brand. I don't know.
I think it's about the brand, and I think it's about controlling the supply.
Yeah.
However, Josh is joining us, capital markets analyst, and so we're going to do some stock news to wrap up the show.
Oh boy.
In stock news, a medical cannabis firm backed by Snoop Dogg begins trading in London, according to CNBC. Oxford Cannabinoid Technologies, which enjoys backing from rapper Snoop Dogg and tobacco giant Imperial Brands, launched Friday on the London Stock Exchange. So, interesting they're using London now. I'm not sure why they're using London.
Yeah, I don't know. The FTSE is an interesting index. It's an interesting market to be in, but maybe they're trying to become an acquisition target for Jazz Pharmaceuticals or the like. I know Casa Verde Capital.
Yeah, it does say that this company specializes in pain alleviating cannabinoid drug development. And gross proceeds of 16.5 million pounds, which, of course, for those of you who can't do that math in their head, is about $23.4 million. And then their IPO is a valuation of 48 pounds or about 70 million. And the share prices are at 5 pence. They're quoting the ticker in or the price in stocks on the FTSE is in pence and pounds, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
Crazy.
Yeah, I mean, it makes sense to have an exit strategy. If Jazz Pharmaceutical bought GW Pharma, then you might want to list on there because the Canadian companies, they want to get into the US. So why not list over in the UK if that's your specialty and make that your exit strategy?
I'm not sure what it is, but he's got a lot of talent in it. So Snoop Dogg has invested in multiple cannabis companies from his venture capital firm. Of course, Snoop Dogg has one, Casa Verde. His firm has also backed plant-based food companies such as Outstanding Food and tech names like Klarna, Robinhood, and Reddit. So Snoop Dogg is a venture capitalist.
Yeah, I don't think he's really done anything with cannabis though. Like if you look at Ease, the delivery service, $35 million and you can't deliver anything, like, man, you're doing something wrong. So
and then I thought they got arrested. I thought Ease was busted.
Probably. I don't know.
Well, that's what it looks like they're trying to do. And stock news in the FTSE. So anyway, man, I wanted to thank you for joining us and tell the people where they can find more about the Talking Hedge and the rest of Josh Kincaid.
The TalkingHedgePodcast.com or all of your favorite podcast, video or audio podcast sites, the Talking Hedge.
Cool.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for joining us, Josh. Have a good cookout. I know we're in the middle of your cookout, so thanks for stopping in. Thanks for tuning in, everyone. Make sure you like and subscribe to keep up with all cannabis legalization news. We will see you on Wednesday.